Gotta say hello once again and welcome to West Point of View. I'm your host, Stan Allen, and thank you so much for joining us today. Today is going to be quite interesting. I can pretty much assure you that. Gotta say also thanks a lot to the folks here at the Community Counseling Facility right here on the campus of Mary Holmes College, historic Mary Holmes College in beautiful West Point, Mississippi. Now, they're doing a lot of developing out here, lots of great programs, and you may want to come by, check some of the things out, maybe something that can work in your schedule or work in your interest right here on the campus of Mary Holmes College with the Community Counseling Facility. But today we're going to talk a little bit about building strong families. And in order to do that, sometimes you got to do preventive maintenance and talk to people a little bit about some of the things you don't want to get into when it comes to a marriage situation. Now, I've been married quite a while myself, and I didn't do too well counseling myself, but actually knowing some of the things ahead of time kind of helps you prevent destruction in the long run. And the best way to do that is talk to people that understand it. I'm going to say Dr. George Miller is going to be joining us, Mr. Will Walker, and Ms. Barbara Culberson. And they're going to tell you a lot of situations and maybe how to handle it. I'm going to first start with Dr. Miller, who's the project manager. Thank you so much for being a part today.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit, Doctor, about what your program consists of.
Well, we right now have the privilege of administrating a grant from the Department of Health and Human Services out of Washington, D.C. We have a 3-year grant. The counties covered will be Choctaw, Winston, and Oktibbeha County. The grant covers relational parts of the marriage or the family, marriage education, which includes ways of getting along, conflict resolution, etc. It sustains the family in that it also has an economic component. And it talks about career exploration, helping to find job, helping to explore or to create resumes or improve the resume skills and interviewing skills. And the program also goes into high school, teaching high school students how to make the right decisions or correct decisions as it relates to their relationships, which is more of a preventive measure for them.
I guess I want to ask, and I'm going to switch you, Ms. Culberson here. When you're talking about evaluating a situation, counseling, and you say you got not actual counseling, but you're preventing people, do people automatically know what to do when they get married?
Not necessarily so. We find that there are so many things that we can learn to help us. I often tell some of the people in the classes that I teach that, we go out and we have to take a test to get a driver's license. Mm-hmm. But to get a marriage license, you can just pay your money and get a license without any instructions. Mm-hmm. And that is really a very, very serious decision that a person or two people would make to commit their lives to each other. And so what we try to do is teach you things that if you're about to make this decision, or if you've already made this decision, that it will help you to have a healthier marriage, because there are skills that you can learn to make sure that you are having a healthy marriage.
Do people think it out, Doctor? Do you think people, when they get ready to get married, do they think it out of just an impulse or something I need to do? And I'm not talking about the shotgun wedding that people used to do back in the day. To me, that's not an impulse. But when people decide to get married, do they really think about what they're getting into? Some of do they weigh the good and the bad? Do they just think about it at that moment? I got this halo on, and this is going to be the ultimate situation in my life. Is that how people think? Or do we tend to think, okay, what am I going to do when the kids get here? What am I going to do when it comes to family hardship? How do people tend to address that thought up front?
Well, we teach as a component in our teaching 8 habits, begin with an end in mind. I believe it's a good way of premarital counseling if we go through that program, because it will make us aware of the potential problems that may exist. It covers finances, values, and things that people could work together on to kind of anticipate what could happen. Mm-hmm. And so by marriage education, in a sense, in the long run, could be preventive as it relates to divorce. And so by preparing and training and getting ready to marry, you may have a more healthier marriage.
I think I know when I got married, I woke up the next day, I was like, oh my God, what did I do? Oh God, what did I do yesterday? It's a great thing. Dr. Walker, I understand, you keep up with the data and all the situation of data input. Is data important to keep up to look back at it? I know you said something about the grant situation.
Right. Because we have a 3-year grant, we have to report back to the Department of Health and Human Services and let them know how things are progressing with the couples that we counsel, with the youth, how we can do things better, or how they might want to assess the situation for future grants and incorporate that into another grant by what we're doing. But it's important to see what's working and what's not, how to help the couples best, what they're responding to, how to get them there to begin with, to work with the families, and then to better help the students in the school district, for that matter, in the school system, and to help the families have a better marriage and a better family and a better life.
So actually, data is a great statistical way to keep in line of maybe because there may be some repetitious process with different people. Therefore, you can understand how to, manage that situation through keeping up good data.
Right. We want to we try to assess what the stage that they're at right now in their marriage, and how the education that they're getting from our educators is helping them to improve their marriage life, to improve their relationship, if they're in the high schools, for that matter, and make better choices, how to live together, love together, and spend time together. Whereas when you're dating, you do all that stuff, and then you get married, and all of a sudden some of that tends to drop by the wayside, and you're just living life. And that's true of all of us, I think. But we want to help the families to have better marriages, and in the process have a better life, and their kids have a better life.
Can you keep it a utopia, though? Can you keep it at the point of I'm always excited, and how do I maintain that? I mean, because I know you say you started out with people who are not even married yet to help them assess the fact of what you're going to be either running into or running around or jumping over. So, I mean, can you keep it at a utopia?
Well, we like to think of it in this term. Marriage is a commitment, and there will be days where it may not be so lovely, but you want to be in it for the long run. You want to go into a marriage, as Dr. Miller indicated, with the end in mind, that you want to leave a legacy for your children of what a marriage really is all about. You want to be able to set the standard, and though it may be times where it may not seem like it's utopia, you want to always be striving for that throughout the length of the marriage. And we do say, to death do we part, when we make those vows. And that's what we want to begin to kind of impart into the people that we teach, that it can be blissful, even though maybe not every day.
Yeah. Is it wise? I mean, and I know this is kind of a rock-throwing question. I'm going to ask both of you guys, all of you this. Divorce is a terrible thing. And a lot of people in their spiritual life teach that you shouldn't do it. That you should try to maintain as long as it's not life-threatening or something of that nature. What is the advice that you would give someone who's not married yet, but yet say you might go through this, and it might get so bad that you can't deal with it? Would that be an alternative?
Yes, we do not condone anyone living in an unhealthy or a dangerous relationship. If that is the case, we have what we call a domestic protocol that gives us a direction to take, to refer, or to notify authorities if someone is physically being abused or even verbally. But we take the approach that we try to intervene before that happens, because the grant is not intended for us to be counselors, but we try to prevent that. But if we identify, a problem, then we try to react to that. But the idea of it is, if we can get ahead, if we can teach couples conflict resolutions, how to manage their money. As you know, financial money is one of the #1 reasons for divorce. We feel like we can make headway if we can teach them those things that we know and statistically will cause a couple not to be able to stay together.
Well, I never thought about money being the #1. So economically, money talks to everybody that's walked. I mean, if you're not financially stable, How do you teach people to be financially secure? How do you teach them to budget? Do you teach them? Do you say this is how you should do it? Do you teach them to pay themselves? Pay your bills, pay themselves? And some people even say pay the church because that may be part of your obligation. What do you tell them? Anybody?
One of the things that we teach in the marriage education classes is to have a plan for the marriage.
Okay.
And we encourage them to have at least a weekly, what we call a partner power hour, where they spend time planning for the marriage and adjusting for different things and situations that may come up in the marriage, so that the two will be on one accord. And if the marriage has a plan, then the marriage will be more successful as people adjust to the plan and get under the plan of that marriage. And so the financial piece would be just one component of the plan for the marriage.
So if you can make it, one, through financial hardship or financial woes, then there's a possibility that things can work out. Two, I guess, who's going to be in charge? You know, I mean, if I looked at that as a structural thing, who's going to be in charge? The man or the wife? Or are they a joint partnership? Who's going to be in charge?
Well, we teach also a section in our curriculum called synergy. In every marriage, someone's going to be weaker in this area, someone's going to be strong in this area. Synergy means that we bring differences together and that we celebrate those differences, and by celebrating those, we learn to work together and find those strengths. One may be weaker in the financial area, another may be weaker in planning. So by coming together and working together, they can overcome those issues.
I know a lot of people think the man ought to be in charge of everything, finances. I see her looking at me real. I mean that's a traditional thought process.
Right, that
but
is.
Tradition doesn't fix things. I think it takes common sense
Right.
in order to fix things. When you look back at your data, I know you said that the data has a lot to do with the amount of funding that you can receive and that kind of thing. What are they looking for to initiate the fact that you do deserve these kind of funding increases or decreases? What are they looking for that you've done in your data processing?
Well, with our grant, the funding is fairly well set from the beginning
Okay.
for the 3-year period, but they do want to see that we're using their money wisely. So we have to show them that we're working with the couples, we're working with the youth, we're working with singles to help them have better relationships and to possibly get jobs, because the grant allows for job opportunities, as Dr. Miller mentioned, job shadowing opportunities, job skills, resume skills, and financial planning. So they want to see that we are incorporating those programs into our grant and that we're working towards those goals of helping them have better marriages, better finances, more job opportunities in the long run. And the current administration endorsed that. You know, they saw the importance of the family system, and so we were fortunate enough to be able to carry that through. And so that's what we're doing with the data, looking at and seeing how well we're working, what's not, and carry that to, you know, this is the second stage. Dr. Miller was actually part of a grant similar to this from 2005 to 2009, and this is the second stage of that grant. They saw the importance of the family and marriage and wanting to help others to have better lives and their students as well in the school district. So
the data is important to make sure that the funding is there, to make sure that the track record is kept when you understand what you're dealing with. What is the beginning process? I mean, I know we've gone into what you do. If you go into and talk to a couple or an individual about the marriage process, are you going to start off with finance? Are you going to start off with romance? Are you going to start off with taking a chance? How are you going to start off and ensure them that this is the structure that's going to make your marriage work when you decide it's time for you to do so?
I always like to use a graph. I have a statistical background, and the graph reveals how people, when they are in love, they're infatuated, how their happiness is higher when they first started. But as time go on, when the children started, it's an all-time low. You figure about 7 years. But then the statistics show that if a person, we try to explain this at the beginning of the program, if we encourage them to maintain their marriage, if they maintain it for a while, they'll see their quality, their improvement of higher quality of being happier becomes a lot stronger as the later years.